Walk into any major athletics event today, and you will see a familiar scene. Sponsor banners line the track. Athletes wear shoes from competing brands. Behind every interview, corporate logos fill the background. In modern sport, the relationship between athletes, events, and brands seems completely natural. Sponsorship deals, commercial partnerships, endorsement contracts, they are all part of the structure of professional athletics. But 60 years ago, the world of American track and field looked very different. In the 1960s, even a world record holder could earn almost nothing from running. Athletes could win championships. They could appear in newspapers across the country. Yet officially, they still had to remain something very specific. They had to remain amateurs. To understand American track and field in the 1960s, we need to look at an idea that shaped sport for nearly a century: amateurism. The concept first emerged in 19th century Europe. Early sports organizations believed athletics should remain a moral activity rather than a commercial one. Sport, they argued, should build character. It should teach discipline, and it should represent honor. Athletes could compete for pride. They could compete for their country, but they should never compete for money. If an athlete received payment for competition, his amateur status was considered compromised. Under early Olympic rules, professional athletes were simply not allowed to participate. For decades, this belief defined the structure of international sport. In the United States, the idea of amateur sport eventually took institutional form. The Amateur Athletic Union, known simply as the A. By the middle of the 20th century, the AAU had become the central authority in American track and field. It organized national championships. It regulated competitions across the country. Most importantly, it controlled the pathway to the Olympic Games. For athletes who dreamed of representing the United States internationally, participation in the AAU system was almost unavoidable. The organization also enforced amateur rules very strictly. Athletes could not sign advertising contracts. They could not receive prize money. In some cases, even accepting excessive travel assistance could threaten their eligibility. If an athlete was judged to have become a professional, the consequences were immediate: disqualification, and often the loss of any chance to compete in the Olympic Games. Alongside the AAU structure, another system shaped American athletics: the university system. Unlike many countries, the United States did not rely on a centralized national training program. Instead, colleges and universities became the heart of athlete development. University teams provided coaching, they provided facilities, and they provided regular competition. Every year, collegiate championships produced a new generation of elite runners. Many of the nation's best athletes came directly from college track programs. This created a unique structure. Athletes were competitors, but they were also students. Track and field existed within education rather than professional sport. During the 1960s, a remarkable group of American middle distance runners began to emerge. Among them was a young athlete from Kansas, Jim Ryun. Ryun's rise captured national attention. In 1964, he became the first American high school runner to break the 4-minute mile. Just a decade earlier, many experts believed the barrier might never fall. Now, a teenager had done it. Ryun quickly became one of the most famous runners in the United States. 3 years later, in 1967, he set a new world record in the mile: 3 minutes, 51.1 seconds. At the time, it was the fastest mile ever run. For many Americans, Ryun symbolized the revival of American middle distance running. Yet his career also revealed a deeper contradiction within the system. Despite holding the world record, Ryun could not earn a living from running. He remained an amateur athlete. While the structure of amateur sport remained unchanged, American society itself was evolving. Television was expanding rapidly. Sports competitions were increasingly broadcast across the country. For the first time, millions of viewers could watch the same race at the same moment. Athletes were no longer known only within local communities. They were becoming national figures. Fans recognized their names. Newspapers told their stories. Sport was gradually becoming part of popular culture. By the late 1960s, Another transformation was quietly taking place. Running was spreading beyond competitive athletes. More and more Americans were beginning to run simply for exercise. Parks, campuses, and city streets began to fill with recreational runners. Jogging was becoming a social movement. For many people, running represented something simple: a pair of shoes, an open road, and the freedom to move. This cultural shift created an entirely new market. Running shoes were no longer made only for elite athletes. They were becoming consumer products. As participation in running increased, companies began to pay attention. They saw a growing audience. They saw a new culture forming around the sport. But under amateur rules, direct sponsorship was still impossible. Athletes could not officially promote products. So the earliest connections between runners and companies were often informal. Sometimes athletes received free equipment. Sometimes teams were supplied with shoes. These arrangements were small. They were rarely public. Yet, they represented something significant. For the first time, commercial interests were entering the world of amateur athletics. Looking back today, the 1960s marked a transitional period in the history of American track and field. The amateur system still defined the official structure of the sport. Universities trained the athletes. Organizations like the AAU governed competition. But outside that structure, the environment was beginning to change. Television was expanding the audience. Running was becoming part of everyday culture. And businesses were starting to recognize the possibilities within sport. The changes were gradual. At the time, they were easy to overlook, but they would eventually reshape the relationship between athletes, competition, and commerce. The modern world of sport was beginning to take form.